pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they be secure who love you. Peace be within your walls and security within your towers. For my brethren and companions' sake I will say, peace be within you. For the sake of the house of our God, I will seek your good.
Yehi shalom bechelech shalva be'amenotayich. Peace within your walls, peace within your walls, and prosperity within your palaces.
Hi everyone, here we are, coming from Israel again, and it's really great to be with you all, and we're entering into a new month, and we want to talk about that. I'll take the guitar if you'd like.
Yeah, that'll be a good idea.
I'll let Gil talk to you about what this month is that we're coming into, and what are we doing.
So
Yeah, it's hard to think that a month passed. It's,
yeah, it's true.
Time really flies. So we're just about to enter the month of Kislev, and our recent two webcasts were dealing with the month of Tishrei, which was the month of the beginning of the new year,
right?
And then we had Cheshvan, in which we talked about the rain, the beginning of the rain.
Yeah,
and it's quite.
We have had so much rain.
Yes, I think for the whole winter.
Yeah,
we've had it in 2 weeks. Okay, sun can come out now, and we're now just about to enter the month of Kislev, and Kislev is actually the month in which Hanukkah takes place, right? So we always have this time of year where like the Jews celebrate Hanukkah and Christians have Christmas, right? It's right around December.
Yeah.
And so we're now just about to enter the month of Kislev, which is the month of Hanukkah.
You're going to have to tell us the story of Hanukkah at some point. That'll be next time, right?
Yeah, I think so, because our next webcast is going to actually take place during Hanukkah. So we will be able to maybe zoom in a bit more about the story of that time in Second Temple and why do we celebrate it and how do we celebrate it.
Right.
But I was thinking maybe, because Hanukkah is basically a holiday in which we talk a lot about light. It's light is really the focus, right? We lit the Chanukiah, right? The Hanukkah menorah. Yeah. It's all about the candles. There's it's winter outside. It's rainy, but then you have
warm.
Yeah, very much. Right? Like the kids are sitting, on the carpet playing, and like there are thunders outside, and it's very like I think you would have the image of Christmas being snowy.
Yes.
It's like it's.
I know it. It's really interesting. Like driving out from here now, along the road there, all of a sudden you're seeing color, and flowers are starting to grow, and there's beautiful reds and oranges. You have to come and see it. It's gorgeous, and we just so don't associate winter with flowers. It's like, especially from Canada, everything stops growing. All the trees all lose their leaves.
So here it's just the opposite, because the summer is so dry, so everything is brown. But then, like after the first rain, everything becomes green again. All the hills and the mountains. It's really beautiful. And so the main focus of Hanukkah is actually light. And so I was thinking maybe without going into much the story of Hanukkah, because we'll do it next month. But maybe we can take just this aspect of light and discuss that.
It's a big topic. I know it's a huge topic. You and definitely for us as Christians. It's when you say light, there are all kinds of verses that come to mind.
For instance,
well, there's one verse especially, and that I immediately think of is when Jesus was talking to his disciples. And he said to them, "You are the light of the world." And I think maybe for the longest time, I hear those words. I didn't necessarily realize how much he was actually drawing from what we'd read in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament of when God speaks about Israel being a light to the nations. So I just, when he talks about your light of the world, when you have a light, you don't hide it under a bush. You put it up on a hill and you shine that light out so everyone can see it.
So it's and that basically corresponds very well with the verse from Isaiah, right? the verse in Isaiah that talks about being a light to the nations. Maybe if we think about, I'm not an expert for the New Testament. Definitely not, but if correct me if I'm wrong, but he wasn't he was talking to Jews, right? His disciples that
there wasn't anyone else around.
Right, and if we think about it in the Jewish context of things, then it corresponds very well with the prophecy in Isaiah that talks about you shall be a light to the nations,
right.
And this is being just the topic of light. The topic of light, as we said at the beginning, it's a huge topic in Judaism. In the Torah, we have many things, talking about. We have a lot of metaphors of the Torah being a light, and We can even think of current verses that we read now in our Parashat Shavua, in our weekly Torah reading, and if we see the blessing that Abraham got, in the blessings that Abraham got from got at the beginning, right at the beginning when he answered the call to go and he came here, then God gives two very interesting images for Abraham to be, or his descendants to be. And those two metaphors are stars and sand. Right? Stars and sand. Your descendants will be like the stars. They will be. Nobody will be able to count them, as just like you're not able to count the stars. And on the other hand, he also talks about being like the sand, just being like the sand on the seashore.
Yes.
And so stars and sand. I was thinking, why did we need two metaphors for that? Why did we need two? Why wasn't it enough to use only one? It's a question. And actually, I know I was trying to look for an answer, like in some places, but didn't manage to really find one. Somebody who really talks about it. We can maybe just leave it open for now. Maybe we can come back to it at the end and see if we can say something about that.
Or maybe someone who's watching this, you might have an idea about that. Why did God give two metaphors?
And these two in particular, stars and sand. What do they have in common, or what do they don't have in common that they can complete one another? What does one have that the other doesn't, and vice versa.
Yeah, interesting.
And so basically everybody can put a comment on your website, right?
Everybody, yes.
Yeah, well, I'm saying everybody.
Lots of comments.
Well, I said they can.
That'd be great.
Okay, I'll change it. Everybody must put a comment on Ruth's website after watching this, and just give us a little input about this. And we'll try to maybe touch that a little bit further on. So basically, the whole aspect of light is very, very central, and we see it in various places in the Torah, and then only in Isaiah after we see this image of being a light to the nations, and this really gets to me. When I talk about when I think about this verse of you are a light to the nations, I am. I think I understand it. But if I do understand it, then it puts me a little bit in frustration. Just thinking about it, it puts me in frustration because if we need to be a light to the nations, then are we? Today, are we? Can we say that we live that purpose, that we actually that we do it, that it's working? That's one thing, and another thing is that there is a very high risk in being told that you're a light to the nations, because it can really fills you in with ego, and like being self-centered a little bit. I am the light. I am the light, but you have to remember that you're not just any light, you're a light to the nations. There's a purpose here. So who is the topic here? You being the light, or the nations who need that light?
Yeah, and it is interesting too, because I think in the Christian world there is that sense of we've taken that verse and we've applied it to ourselves and forgotten when it was first spoken. So there's a little song that children sing. It's this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, and it's all about being lights. But we've forgotten that actually, yes, this is true. God wants us to shine with His presence and with everything that He is. But at the same time, in many ways, I think, have forgotten that these words about being a light were spoken first to Israel. spoken first to God's people, Israel, and that we need to look at it in that way today, I think.
Maybe this could also be just part of the reason, but just part of the reason. I'm not saying, like, definitely not the whole reason, but maybe just part of the reason why this light is not accepted in the world today. Let's say, for the vast majority, or at least what we can see, through the media or things like that. It doesn't look like this light is being taken, fully. And on the other hand as well, I mean, just like being, criticizing ourselves as well, do we really dedicate our lives for that purpose?
Right.
Being a light to the nations, or do we just do what we do? If we do it, do we just do it because for our own, for our own good, not for the good of the world? Because for years, and because of history and because of bad experience that we've had throughout the years, then we quite often talk about the walls. There have been walls being built around us, like imaginary walls, but also very solid and physical walls.
Imaginary but very real.
Yeah, very much. And these walls are very hard to get through. I quite often talk about it when we have groups. By the way, we meet groups here in Israel, and I quite often talk about how I grew up. I grew up in a Jewish Orthodox, with a Jewish Orthodox education, and up until the age of 25, when I started to do what I do, teaching Hebrew, I had no interaction with. I had no idea what's going on outside of my world. Completely had no idea. Nobody ever spoke to me about non-Jews. Other religions, for instance, or other mentalities, cultures, even within the Jewish world. About Reform Judaism and Conservative Judaism, and nobody ever spoke to us about it ever. They kept us, inside of our preserved
protected
bubble, protected bubble, and it was very hard to get through those walls. Later on, and up until today, when I talk to people about what we do, it's very weird for them. And these are not people who lived in let's say in a religious ghetto. These are people who went to university and they serve in the army, and they do all these things.
Yes.
To be in interaction with the outside world, but still it's so strange for them to even think about any relevance they have for the world.
That's interesting. I suppose then the question becomes, how can we be a light? God's addressing a whole people in this when he's talking about being a light to the nations. But presumably, in order to be a light to the nations, each individual has to take the responsibility. But is it something that naturally happens as we live our lives before Him, or is it something that you actually decide we're going to be a light and we're going to be it in this way? 1, 2, 3. This is how we're going to shine our light.
I think both. I think both actually, and this corresponds with the question that we started with now, with the stars and the sand. Because my thought about this question is that the stars are way up there, but the sand is like the most basic material we have, right? It's everywhere. It's very down to earth, and I think this combination of heaven and earth together, I think that basically brings us to maximize our potential, and that would shine in any case. So, but when we do that, we have to remember that there is a purpose for it. Every time we do something, we have to think of the purpose. So the purpose is to fulfill the word, to keep the word as God instructed it. But why did He give us that to keep? Well, first of all, because that's the way we need to live our lives. But But for sure, this is relevant for the whole world, not just for us in our own individual or even national life.
Right. It's interesting. I'm just thinking, if I'm not mistaken, I'm no scientist, but isn't glass made from sand?
It is.
So what do we make with glass? We make windows.
Yeah, you make glasses.
You make glasses. So in that sense, I was thinking more in the sense of window, of something you look out on, something you open up.
Yeah,
for people to
definitely. And it's I really like the image of just being the screen on which God projects Himself on.
I love that image.
And it's just that it's not about us. It's not about me, Gil, the individual. It's not about that. If I'm part of. I was chosen to be part of a chosen people. Mm-hmm. That's how that's what I believe. That's what's in the Torah. But it's not about me.
Right.
It's really not about me. I mean, we always have to think. Okay, so how is this relevant for the world? For bringing better future to the world, bringing redemption to the world, bringing Mashiach closer to us, and that's basically the purpose. Us being here. Jews living in Israel.
Right.
That's the whole purpose.
Right.
We don't stop here just by living here in Samaria. I mean, just by living here in Israel.
Yes.
We don't stop here. I mean, we have to continue. I mean, things are coming. Things are really knocking on our doors. And I think that is the relevance. And when I hear different discussions, I would just want people from both sides to be able to accept that.
Right.
Also people on my side as well accept the fact that it's not about you. Okay, you don't own God, you don't own the world. You are just chosen to keep it. Okay, why were you chosen? God knows. He made the choice, but it's not about you specifically. It's about the world. And well, when I talk about light, then that basically what comes up. But I have another question that would like to come up, but maybe we should sing something before.
Yeah, let's. Well, I have this song. I love to sing. It's the words are, "The Lord is my light and my salvation. He's my strength, and even if my enemy encamps against me, I'm not going to be afraid because He is my light." So if we're talking about God being our light, then what does that mean? If we're going to be lights, it's something about, I don't know. I think of this song. I think of it's very much about looking into the face of God.
It's very intimate.
Very intimate.
It's. Yeah. I mean, King David was very intimate by writing these lines. After because he was persecuted a lot in his lifetime. Right. And he needed. Well, I guess he needed that.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's let's sing this one, and some of you will know this in its original English version. It's one thing I ask, which comes at the end of this psalm. But the psalm begins with this whole focus on the Lord being our light. Of whom shall I be afraid? One thing I ask of you, Lord, this is what I seek, that I may dwell in your house all the days of my life, to gaze upon your beauty and seek you in your temple. One thing I ask, this is what I ask, just one thing. Lord, you are my light, you are my salvation. Of whom will I be afraid? You are my light, you are my light. I was just thinking about, in the context of fear, the one classic thing that people are afraid of is the dark.
Yeah.
And especially when we talk about when bad things start to happen, there's so much darkness in the world. There's all this evil going. There's all this stuff going on, and that causes people to fear. So that maybe one of our roles as being light is about banishing fear. It's and in a sense.
I also think it's because we can't see in the dark.
Yes.
And when we can't see, we're lost. We're lack of confidence.
Yes.
And when we hear that, when we read the words, God is my light. You help me see.
Yes.
You help me see. Therefore, you give me confidence.
Yeah, and I won't be afraid.
I won't be afraid.
Yeah, it's good.
It's very relevant, when I think of everything which is happening today, it's here. It's very relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Can I bring up a question, a short one, just for 2 hours?
Yeah.
You know the story of Balak in Numbers, right?
Sort of. You're going to have to fill me in on it.
So in Numbers we have a whole portion talks about Balak. Balak was the king of Moab. Okay, mm-hmm. Moab. He was the king, and basically he knew that the Jewish people, as they were walking in the desert, he knew that they are just about to enter, to enter his land,
mm-hmm.
and through his land basically to go to Israel. Okay, right. He knew they were about to do that, and he knew that he had two options: either he would let them, which he didn't want to.
Right.
Or he would have to go again. He would have to fight them. Okay, or he would have to fight them,
right.
Basically not letting them go through. And he decided. Okay, basically he saw what happened to the previous kings. That tried to fight against the Israelites. He saw that they lost, and he didn't want to go into that. So he decided to maybe have a different strategy. Okay, so he said. He probably understood. He said, "Okay, there was something very, very different about this people, and there's something very spiritual, considering all the miracles that they've had in Egypt. The world knew what happened, obviously,
mm-hmm.
and so he decided to curse them. Okay, he said, I'll fight them, in their own way, spiritual against spiritual, so I'll curse them, and he invited Bil'am." Bilam was, the Torah basically calls him a sorcerer or I don't know the English word for that, but the Hebrew word is mechashef, which is like a sorcerer.
Yeah.
And he called Bilam, and he said, I want you to curse them. There was a whole thing, like he sent messengers to him, and Bilam he wanted to go, but there was a whole thing there, but let's not go into that. But in the end, Bilam comes to Balak and he says, fine, I'll curse them, but just so you know, I won't be able to say words which God won't let me say. So basically, I will be able to say only what God puts in my mouth. If God doesn't give me the option to curse them, I won't be able to do that. But let's try. He said, but let's try, So he said, okay, so Bilam started, build me an altar, and like he started his whole ritual before he basically came to curse. Right. And then at the last stage, he was standing on these mountains, and he saw, the Jewish people basically in the valley down there. And I really like this story in the Torah, because it's the first time, it's the only time that we get a chance to see the Jewish people from outside, not from what's happening inside. Like everything which was going on inside the camp. Right. Now we are looking at the Jews through the eyes of the Gentile of that time.
Right.
Okay, like how did he choose? Yeah, I mean, we are if we have other places when we see like how Gentiles looked at the Jewish people, but it wasn't in first person. It was all. I mean, they were always third person. The Torah is saying he did that and he did that and they did that. But here we are. It's all in first person. We get a chance to hear Balak talks. To Bilam around. Behind their backs. Behind the Jews' back. It's really interesting. It's really, and I think we can learn a lot from it. It's the only time in the Torah which is like that. And then Bilam basically he tries to curse them 3 times. And 3 times he ended up blessing them, So and then at the end of each time, Balak was going, "What did you do? I asked you to curse them, and you blessed them." And he said, "Well, I told you I won't be able to say words that God won't let me say. So if you want me to curse them, I mean, he needs to let me curse them. So let's try again." And then he tried the second time and the third time, and then 3 times like that. And then in the end, they understood that this is like a lost situation. And there is a verse which is quite a funny one that says, "And each went to his house." At the end they separated. Each went to his house, which is quite funny. We don't see these phrases usually in the Torah, but there we have it. But what I'd like us to focus on is one particular verse from the first time that Bilam tried to curse the Jewish people, and he ended up blessing them. But he was obviously prophesying. I mean, this is not. If we look at it like in the original text, these things are actual prophecy and a very clear description of what the Jewish people is and who it is, and very, very interesting. And in one of those verses, if I just read it to you, maybe you'll be able to translate it. Bilam was saying, this is in Numbers 23, verse 9. And he was saying, do you have it? So he was saying, Ki merosh tzurim er'enu, umigvaot ashurenu, hen am levadad yishkon, uvagoim lo yitchashav.
So from the tops of the crags I see him, from the hills I behold him. Behold, a people dwelling alone, and not counting itself among the nations.
And not counting themselves among the nations. And that, these words, there are a lot of things we can say about this verse, definitely, but this one, these words, I mean, they will not consider themselves among the nations. That is something that challenges being a light to the nations. And that is this is a constant discussion within Jewish circles, Jewish philosophers and rabbis, and how do we do that? How do we balance the two? Because the verse you were reading was saying they shall not consider themselves among the nations. In Hebrew it has 2 meanings, maybe in English as well. Maybe I don't understand English, but it's both. They shall not be calculated. They shall not be. Counted. Counted among the nations. Between the nations, and also they should not consider the Gentiles. Could be they should not consider the Gentiles, or consider their opinion.
Right.
Okay, it works like in all these ways.
or that they don't consider themselves to be part of that.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the one, not being counted. And this basically challenges the whole thing of being a light. How can you be a light if you keep yourselves so isolated? Because this verse talks about isolation. That's what it talks about. You are not part of everything else. You are different, and you are not part of anything else. You is you, and that's it. It's the words in Hebrew are very, very clear, and they create this very clear cut. So how can we be a light to the nations if we need to keep ourselves so isolated from the world?
That's really interesting, because we also have an expression. We talk about being in the world but not of the world.
Can you explain that a bit?
Well, I'm kind of realizing that there's a connection here, because if there's a sense of being separated, but can we be, can you as a people be separated within? And because that's how you'll be a light.
It's very hard to keep yourself separated when you are within. That's the whole thing. And I would say that these two topics basically represents two ideologies. One ideology that holds, this being a light to the nations. They talk about tikkun olam, and they talk about going out there.
Tikkun olam, just to translate that.
Tikkun olam is basically, I don't know what would be
fixing the world.
Yeah, fixing or repairing the world, and doing good things in the world. That's correcting it.
Right.
And so those who hold this ideology, they would go everywhere, whenever there is a natural disaster. So they would want to go there and reach out.
You certainly see that.
Oh, for sure, definitely.
But the strange part about that is that on the whole, the world doesn't see it.
No, they don't.
Because there's almost this conspiracy in a sense, or almost to block the light that is shining
to put
out
sunglasses to that light. Definitely. But so there's that ideology, being a light to the nations, and on the other hand, those who choose to stay between the walls, inside the walls, they say, we should not consider ourselves among the nations. Now it's a verse. We should not consider their opinion. We should not even. They're irrelevant. Because of that. Yes. We need to be within ourselves, keeping our 613 commands, studying from our scriptures, marrying, of course, one another, living together. That's it. That's all there is to it. How do we balance the two? How do you feel about it? You living here. You live here. You've been living here for the past 3.5 years, 4 years almost. How do you feel? Living inside a people which is instructed in a way with that. You should not consider yourself among the nations.
You're talking about people that are really actively following after God. Because, you're looking at sort of two societies, really, in a sense, here in Israel.
But let's talk about the ideology. Let's talk about, the concept of...
Sometimes it's really tough, and especially because I so want I so want that world to be open to me, and then when you hit that wall, it's very hard, and you kind of wonder, well, why is there a wall here? There doesn't need to be a wall here. I just want to be with you. I just want to. I just want to be friends. I want to learn from you. I want to experience what it is that you carry as a people. And so, when there is a wall in that context, what causes that wall? And
it's funny. Sometimes it's really
sometimes
funny.
You feel like you've literally walked into a wall, and you just kind of.
Sometimes it's really funny. People would say, I'm just giving an example, not that, but people may say, "Oh, so who's that?" And they would say, "Oh, this is Ruth," blah blah, and then they would say, "Oh, she's not Jewish." oh, she's not Jewish. Like, oh, isn't she Jewish? It's, oh, okay. It's like, okay, we classified her as the other.
No, we've got yeah.
It's interesting that people still think about it like that.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not judging it for a second, because
it's definitely bad.
Well, Ruth judges it. It's fine. I choose not to judge it because today because today in the world there is still so much darkness, and there is still so much that needs to be revealed. And I think, if looking at these two ideologies, I think that we would only know the right way to balance between the two is when Mashiach comes. Mm-hmm. And that's basically, that answers all questions we have. We have many questions, as far as for how we practice, how we worship, and we're not sure. We have those communities doing that thing, and those communities doing the other thing, and they argue, and that's the right way. No, that's the right way. That's part of the punishment of not being redeemed, fully redeemed yet. Yeah. And I know, when I look at this, I say, okay, the only way we could ever balance this, and the only way we could ever maximize our potential, if we have Mashiach. Like, if we just have Mashiach, and right here, right now, there's no. We say it every time, but then but we still very much hope that when we do our next webcast, it'll be from a different place. We could do it from a different place, and the world would be in a different place. Yeah, that's.
Wow. I think about Bilam's prophecy, as it were, as he ended up blessing Israel, and I asked myself the question: was he actually prophesying how Israel should be, or was he actually prophesying how Israel will be?
I think it's.
Is it one and the same thing? I'm not sure, because he could have been saying that Israel will not count itself among the nations. It's almost like he's looking at this people and he's seeing how it's going to be for them. But then you have other.
When I really think of the word, then it's not only you will not consider him, but it's also you will not be considered. Yes. I mean, they won't consider you. Yeah. They won't count you in. Yeah.
Well, I want to counteract that. I want to read you something.
Go ahead.
I hope this will be an encouragement to you. Definitely passage you know. This is from Isaiah 60. And so this is what the Lord is saying over you and over your people right now. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon you. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples, but the Lord will arise upon you, and his glory will be seen upon you. And nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see. They all gather together, they come to you. Your sons shall come from afar, and your daughters shall be carried on the hip. Then you shall see and be radiant. Your heart shall thrill and exult, because the abundance of the sea shall be turned to you.
Amen.
I just feel that there is, there's such a promise. There's such a promise in that, and then at the end of that chapter, it talks about the sun shall be no more your light by day, nor the brightness shall the moon give you light. For the Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory. So I think that there is just such a promise even in all the question of how to be the light, because God's going to do it.
Amen.
And it's yeah.
Let's pray for Mashiach.
Yeah,
let's do that.
Do you want to tell people a little bit about our next Now week that's coming up in?
Yes. My head is still on that promise, but So we have talked about it before, and we're organizing basically weeks here in Israel, in Jerusalem in particular. We call it the Now Week. Now it's basically stands for No Ordinary Week, because it is no ordinary week. What I like the most about these weeks is that it's not one of those going on the bus and off the bus, on the bus and off the bus all day long. It's really about learning together and building a relationship. Getting the chance to meet people and talk to people, hear what they have to say. They have a chance to hear what you have to say, because we're bringing different speakers to the group as well as ourselves, and so basically we've done one in last March 2015, and we're going to do one in a week and a half. There's another group coming of 31 people from different places. That's going to be in November, and we have another one coming up, which the registration is still taking place. That's going to be in March the 6th.
6th to the 13th.
6th to the 13th. You can go on Ruth's website. There's all the information. And we'll be very happy to have you with us for that week. So registration is still taking place. You can save yourself a spot.
Yeah, save up your money, save up your shekels.
אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח. אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח. אני מאמין ואף על פי שיתממע עם כל זה, אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום שיבוא. ואף על פי שיתממע עם כל זה, אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום שיבוא. אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח. אני מאמין באמונה שלמה בביאת המשיח. אני מאמין ואף על פי שיתממע עם כל זה, אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום שיבוא. ואף על פי שיתממע עם כל זה, אחכה לו בכל יום שיבוא, בכל יום שיבוא. אני מאמין באמונה שלמה.
Amen.
Amen.
Shalom to you all, and we'll see you next time. Hope to hear from you. Do drop us a line and leave your comments on the website, and we'll be very, very happy to hear from you and respond.
Thank you.
Bye.